you check the children. Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird, and I'm here to talk about a brand new release called The Nun II. Obviously, this is part of the Conjuring universe. This is actually a sequel to, whether you believe it or not, I believe it's the most successful entry into the whole Conjuring universe, including The Conjuring, Annabelle, The Nun, and The Curse of La Llorona, which we'll get into all that in just a quick minute. But I'm going to be talking about The Nun II. We did do a review of the first Nun movie. I was not the biggest fan of it, but we are here to talk about the sequel. Now, I was not the biggest fan of the first Annabelle movie, but I really liked the second two Annabelle movies, so that's what I was hoping for with this one, was a improvement on the first film. And did we get that? Well, let's talk about it. As always, if you want to watch clips of the film while I discuss it, I'm going to go ahead and put the link to the trailer in the description box. So go ahead and click that, have the clips going while I'm doing the review. We just don't put clips up on the channel anymore because it always results in copyright. So thank you guys very much. So first I will say that this film was directed by Michael Chaves, or Chavez? Chaves? I'm not sure how to say it. We'll say Chaves for now, but he is the one that actually did direct The Curse of La Llorona, and he directed The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, the third entry into the film, and now he's directed the second Nun movie. What I will say is that Curse of La Llorona, about a 3-star movie to me. Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, definitely the least of the Conjuring movies, maybe 2.5, 3 stars for that one as well. So I didn't know that going into this. I just went into this with high hopes, and I did enjoy The Nun II better than the first movie, but not by a ton. The biggest difference is I cared about the story in this one. I cared about the characters. I feel like Michael did a good job of actually developing the characters and their relationships in this film so that I actually was invested, as opposed to in the first movie, I do not remember being that much invested. I only saw the first movie once. Part of why I didn't like it was the denouement, the actual final confrontation, the slaying of the demon, so to speak, was literally ripped right from Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight. I even actually did a side-by-side comparison in my original review for The Nun. But we're here to talk about the sequel, right? Let the past be the past, see how this one strikes my fancy. Now, this one does bring back Taissa Farmiga, who is Vera Farmiga's sister, and Vera Farmiga, of course, plays the Warren, Mrs. Warren, Elizabeth Warren, and Taissa now plays this core character from the Nun franchise, which I like Taissa Farmiga specifically because she was wonderful in American Horror Story, and she was particularly awesome in The Final Girls. Loved her in that film. Loved that whole film. It's one of my favorite horror movies of the last decade, let alone horror comedies. But I do want to say, just to give proper credit, because the other actor that plays Maurice in this film and in the original film, let me make sure I give him proper shout out. That is James Bloquet, or Bloquet, I'm not sure how to say it. Bloquet. Could very well be French, so I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but these are the two leads of the film, and they did a fantastic job. I really bought into the relationships in this film, like I said earlier. So my overall thoughts, just to kind of consolidate here, I enjoyed the film. I didn't enjoy it as much as I was hoping, but I definitely enjoyed it more than the first one. This was a straight 3 stars across the board, 3 out of 5 to me. Very average film, but there were aspects that were done well. There were aspects that felt very, very familiar. If I have to see one more horror movie where a group of mean girls locks a nice girl into something and keeps her from coming out, I feel like we've seen that so many freaking times at this point that I'm just tired of that trope. That is an entire trope that just needs to be done. Goodbye. Goodbye. Yeah, mean girls. Girls are mean. Yes, they lock people into places, and the people in those places see something that they're not supposed to see. And it's just, it's been done so many times. I'm just so tired and ready for that to be retired at this point. But, again, the actors did a good job, and there was some comeuppance later for some of the group as far as that goes. But yeah, my overall thoughts were it's a very competently made movie. Some people are really going to enjoy it. again, I didn't like the first film, and it ended up being, again, I believe, the most successful film in the Conjuring series. And I don't know if this is going to repeat that. I think it's probably largely because of the religious angle, and there's so many Christians all across the world. And, you know, Christians, they love their horror, you know, that's dedicated to their religion. Obviously, that's why exorcism movies do so well. That is purely based in the Christian faith for the most part. So, yeah, I mean, lots of people are going to come and see this movie just like they went and saw the first one. I think that this one is, like I said, a little bit better. Story-wise, it actually picks up pretty quickly from the last film, and I am a little bit bummed that I didn't rewatch the first one leading up to this, because I was playing a little bit of catch up at the beginning, but the film does a really good job of catching you up, like reminding you, oh yeah, Taissa Farmiga actually knows Maurice from the first film. I didn't remember that because we meet Maurice first, and we, you know, see what he's up to, and I'm like, oh, this is a cool character, I like him. And then the film reminds me, like, psh, he was in the first one, remember? And I was like, oh yeah, he was in the first one. And I did like him in that one. He was the guy that was, like, replenishing the stuff at the nunnery, and he got drawn into all the events from the first film. Anyway, so in this one, there is a malevolent force that has returned, and there are deaths happening at certain places along, throughout Europe, as the Valak, obviously, the demon from the first film, which I don't remember the name being sprinkled throughout here, except when Taissa Farmiga is going through the alleys and certain areas that ends up at the magazine rack that you see in the actual trailer. I believe there's some letters around her, behind her, on the... I saw a V, I saw an A, I saw a K, so I'm guessing Valak is somewhere around there, because in every movie Valak's been, they've alluded to it by showing the letters ahead of time. Case in point, in The Conjuring 2, when we are going to be meeting Valak, there's a scene where I believe it's Elizabeth Warren talking to one of the characters from the film, and you see on the bookshelves behind her, there's blocks, like kids' blocks, that spell out Valak all over on the bookshelves. And then they did that Valak thing in the Nun I too. I can't remember where they did in the first Nun movie, but I believe they did it again here, but you had to really keep your eyes out for it. But nonetheless, Taissa Farmiga's character catches wind of the fact that evil is happening and it's traveling, and she puts together that it's traveling in a similar pattern to this character Maurice, who she knew from the first film, and she wants to go and stop it. Actually, she's that's not true. She doesn't necessarily want to go and do it, but the Vatican requires her to go and do it, and so she has to go and join the fight. Meanwhile, Maurice is at a whole new it's a boarding school that is a religious boarding school, and he's there, and strange happenings are occurring, and they have to all figure out why and how Valak has returned and what Valak's plan is. There's, unfortunately, just like in the first movie that had the very much ripoff of Demon Knight with the crucifix with the Christ's blood in it, there's another, God, what do you call him? Oh, God, there's a specific term in film for it, and I'm spacing on it. Not foible, but foible is another name for it. There's a thing. There's a thing that people need to find, right? There's a MacGuffin, right? There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. There's a MacGuffin. You have to find the MacGuffin, and both the good and the bad side are looking for this MacGuffin, and whoever finds it first can use it and try and defeat the other. That's the long and short of this, and it's about this boarding school being terrorized by Valak, and yeah, that's the long and short of the story. It played out fine, like nothing really. There was a couple of jump scares that got me, but that's just what they were. They were just jump scares of a different variety that we've seen numerous times in the past. Nothing super scary, but there was a creature aspect to this, which I really appreciated. They do sort of tip their hat as to what's going to be coming early on in the film, but you know, films do that all the time. And so I enjoyed the creature aspect when we got it. But overall, you know, the story played out pretty predictably, and the end was a little bit easy for me, especially compared to the first one. So yeah, that's how the story struck me. The acting I thought was good in this one. I didn't have any issues. Obviously, the mean girls, it's such a trope. The mean schoolgirls are just always mean schoolgirls. You could literally drop any of these female actresses redundancy. Department of Redundancy Department. There you go. That's the joke. Nonetheless, mean girls could be acted by any group of mean girls that have been mean girls in any film ever in the history. There's nothing new about that. So that's a bit of a bummer. But acting-wise, otherwise, I really bought into it. I bought into Maurice. I bought into Maurice's love interest. I bought into Maurice's love interest's daughter. I bought into Taissa Farmiga because she's just a fucking phenomenal actress, straight up. And the problem is, what is her associate's name? Storm Reed, maybe, I think is the actress's name. I'm just pulling that completely out of my memory banks. Storm Reed, wow, I got it right. Holy crap. She played Deborah. Yeah, wow, nailed that. Good for me. I mean, it's a memorable name. But she had nothing to do through the whole movie. She was definitely a supporting character in the most supportingest of ways, in that she didn't seem to have agency of her own in the film. So she did good, but she did good as like, hey, go get him, and hey, I'm here, and hey, let me be the person that goes and handles this while you handle that, because we need someone in the film to go and handle that, so that might as well be me. That's basically the limitation of Storm Reed in this film. She did a good job, but she just didn't have much to do. So yeah, I mean, acting was fine. Cinematography and direction were all great. Like, the dude knows his way about around a camera. Director of photography did a great job, but it didn't. There was some interesting things, but nothing that really like blew my hair back. Blew my pants off, or anything like anything in between. Anything between my hair and my pants, nothing was blown off. But it was directed well. It was intriguing. It wasn't hard to follow the action. Not that there was a ton of action. The jump scares were crafted interestingly. Again, he does come from the Wanian, and Wanian, I mean James Wanian sort of directing school, which is obvious from The Curse of La Llorona and The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which he also did, both of those films. So there is an aspect of James Wan-esque direction to it, but that's the problem. When it's not James Wan, it feels like it's James Wan-esque, so it doesn't feel altogether original. That's not to say that it's bad, it just doesn't feel altogether original. But it's fine. It's entertaining enough. Effects-wise, there was some interesting effects. I liked a couple of things that they did. There wasn't a lot of practical. I feel like the nun herself got less screen time in this than a lot of even in The Conjuring 2. I mean, probably more screen time than in The Conjuring 2, but I feel like the nun was given short shrift in her own film. We got the creature aspect a little bit more, which is fine because I liked the creature, but yeah, the nun herself was given a little bit of short shrift. But effects-wise, she was cool. We didn't get a lot of close-ups of her this time. There was a couple, and she had the sharp, bloody teeth and everything, just like before. But we still have yet to get, like, the demon reveal that we got in the Conjuring movie. So there's still some secrecy as to Valak itself. Yeah, I mean, the sound design was good. Sound design was interesting. The sound design has to be good in horror movies nowadays, or else you just get supremely bored by everything. So sound design was good. I will say I noticed the score at one point where I was like, this is a pretty good score. I should listen to the Nun and the Nun II score more, because I listen to a lot of horror scores when I do writing, when I do editing, when I do all kinds of stuff online, and I think I'm going to add the Nun and the Nun II to that rotation. The music was really cool. Sound design was good. But overall, the total package, it was okay. It wasn't as bad as part one, because part one I just felt fell short in a lot of ways. If the story was lackluster and if the characters I didn't care about at all, like in the first film, I would have reviewed it the same. But I liked the characters and I liked their story arcs in this one, outside of the Mean Girls aspect. Again, it's been done a billion times, but overall, the film's entertaining. I wouldn't do more than 3 out of 5 stars. It might be closer to 2.5. I would have given the first Nun probably 2 out of 5 stars. So it's a little better than that, but not by a tremendous amount. So there you go, guys. That's going to be my thoughts on the Nun II. Thank you very much to Allied and Patrick and Jessica for hooking me up for this screening. Fuego was supposed to be able to go, but he all I heard was that he got a busted taillight, and here we are a few days later, and I still haven't heard from him. So the show must go on. So there we go. That's your review. Thank you very much to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. Thank you to everyone that's new to the channel after Dylan's New Nightmare. I plan to get more content going for Dylan's New Nightmare, so do stay tuned for that. But that's my thoughts on the Nun II. Again, we completely support the strike and the writers and the directors. Well, the directors part of the strike is over, but the writers, the actors, and pretty soon the video game industry as well, if I'm not mistaken. We are just doing our journalistic side. We are not promoting things. We are simply giving our thoughts as journalistic reviewers, right? I very much support everyone involved with the strike, and this is just me giving my thoughts on the film, which I believe we determined is allowed. So thank you guys very much for watching. Again, thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird, and remember, stay scared.